And the volume's off. Well, stream was just completely blank for a while. Oh well. You guys know I'm technologically deficient. What's up, Martin? Since we didn't see it last time. And now you guys have sound. My bad. What is interesting too is if we look at Bitcoin, this is what I was hoping Caesar was here for, because he was saying was seeing some decoupling from my special today? ATC. SDT. He was saying he was seeing some decoupling from Bitcoin, and I just wanted to see what he was getting after. Just because, so Bitcoin broke that low on, I think Friday was the 29th, right? Yeah, so the ES broke the low, and then Bitcoin broke the low over the weekend, but has since come back into range, and the ES is kind of still, still same at a relatively, similar spot. I don't know how different it is. I do know there's a lot of news about crypto, mainly Bitcoin actually getting kind of smashed because the Russian ruble recovered. How much weight to put in that, I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know if how much validity it really has. But just something to pay attention to, right? If a lot of people start to get bearish on crypto, it could, definitely take a bit of a move, so. Morning, Trin. Morning, Pop. Yeah, so you guys should be able to hear me on the YouTube now. That was my bad. So we're back inside. We keep kind of flirting with this low of the spike from Friday, and just kind of hanging out here. And you can see where the volume's coming in big time, right? You see as we moved higher, we still have two TPOs up here, but really only one chunk of actual volume, right? And I actually changed this to show dark blue and light blue. So light blue being the lowest, dark blue being like, towards the lowest, but still increasing a bit. And then of course white and red being the top two, red being the top, white being second. I only changed one thing, and it was one of the white sectors was, I just changed it to dark blue. But notice all this volume coming back in at that same spot, or around the same spot from Friday. We've got all this volume here, and all the volume for the most part, is in this 41.30 to 41.12 here. How much down draw would I take on a trade? It just depends. It depends on every trade is going to be a little bit different. I don't really like to be and also depends, like if you're trading futures, it's different today. It's different with the volatility going on today, especially because you're going to have to use some of these reference points, because the volatility could easily just wick down, get you, and then just wick back up, and you can kind of today could be one of those days where you spend your day just getting stopped out over and over if your risk is too tight. But on an options contract, I really don't like to get down below 30%. Anything over 30%, I start to try to find some other way to mitigate my risk a bit. That's what's been happening to you all morning. Yeah, today, that's why today's one of those days where you really just kind of want to wait. I mean, there's definitely been opportunity, of course, but you just have been super patient, and and really have to figure out where you want to put your stops and where you want to put entries before before the market just starts getting volatile. And that's the thing, things that will help you with that stuff is if you're sticking to your trade plan. um you have a trade plan and you say, okay, if the market opens up within the spike, I want to look for a good spot to get short. um and then you wait for that to happen, you see the good spot to get short, and then you get short, right? If your trade plan doesn't say anything about buying today or down here at these lower prices and you are buying, remember you're trading against your trade plan. um I already admitted that I traded, well, not really against my trade plan, because I did think there was going to be some opportunity below the spike if buyers showed up, and it kind of looked like they did early on. Might have just been short covering or you know profit taking, but the opportunity was there. But I still had planned to try that trade, right? Just on those trades that are against the trend, right? So if you were getting long off the lows today, the trend has been down. So if you're trading against the trend, you've got to, you know, manage that trade a little bit better and make sure that you've identified where your entrance is at, where you're looking for it to rally up to. And typically on a fade trade, you're not going to be risking as much because you're you understand that it's going against the trend. Yeah, DM me. I changed the boot camp or the TPO boot camp Discord around. So you might have to reorient yourself. It's a little bit easier now, I think. Um, it's just my opinion. I just consolidated it a little bit. We're starting to get some selling here all over the market. Take it. Starting to pick up some tempo on the downside too. It takes out that B low. But be careful here. This is where volume just kind of died out earlier. What size account would I recommend for a micro account? I mean, if you have like 2,500 bucks for a micro account, that's probably perfect. I mean, you don't need that much, but I mean, that's just a pretty decent starting amount, I think. TNX is up there hitting the highs as well. Dollars still doing well. Break out above the highs. Euro futures are moving down, so they moved out of their weekly balance and now they're moving in or lower towards their monthly balance. Yeah, the yen is still hitting the low. PLT's gapping down and heading lower. Had a small rebound last week, but still heading down. Let me look up the Fed. During that C period, there was a 5% increase in volume. That'll be interesting. And it probably all came in here down at the bottom. Morning, Adam. And so it's almost 100%. It's 99.8% that the rate hike is going to be either a 0.75 or a full basis point. And so this will be the first time that they've done a double rate hike since 2000. You know, I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns going on with that kind of stuff, and really, instead of trying to worry about all of that stuff and predict and correlate and guess and time and all that stuff, you really just got to focus on this chart in front of you. Understand that we're in a downtrend weekly, daily, monthly, and you know there can be bounces, and you just have to be prepared for that. There can be further drawdown. We've got to be prepared for that. But there's no reason to just come into today just assuming like, okay, today I'm just going to short no matter what because the market's going down, right? It looks like it's going to work out, fairly well today, but it's just not always going to work out like that. And then one thing actually that I learned this weekend, so Jim Dalton was telling me about, well, telling a group of us about this AB high, right? This poor high from Friday. And with this poor high, he was saying that with the trend, and this is something I've never heard him say, that when a poor high happens with the trend and we know the trend is down, that it's not that important. It still wants to be monitored because if we get above it, there, a lot of short covering, like a big short covering rally can happen. But he said when you see a poor high off of, in a downtrend, especially when it fails to fill these prior singles, it's not as weak as you think. And what he also said was on Friday, he saw what he assumed was called a buyer's strike. And it really um wasn't just a bunch of heavy selling. It was more of just nobody was buying the market at all. So just something to note, thought about information that I would share just because I didn't really even think about something like that, about the poor high. And on Friday I wasn't even on the computer to see the market sell off at all. I got off like right after the stream, so the market started kept going down. I think I got off during K period. So L and M, I just missed the last hour. Or no, I must have got off before. No, we were on pretty late. So XLC is still looking okay. XLK hasn't made the lower low yet, but it has made a higher low or lower high, I mean. Um, Everything else just looks kind of correlated. And for those of you guys that were on the stream that didn't get to hear what I was talking about because I didn't have the sound on, so I made this chart on Thinkorswim, and it basically just has all of our top sectors. So XLK, XLV, XLF, XLY, XLC, XLI, XLP. And then when we hit the flex grid, we've got the tick, the advanced decline, the volt, and then whatever. We have a chart right here on what we want to look at. We can see there is seeing some more selling right now in the unweighted sectors than the weighted sectors. So just overall selling, not really heavy selling yet in the weighted sectors. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Remember, the market is below Friday's low right now, and we are getting volume down here. So you've got to be careful for that for sure. It just hasn't happened yet. With the tick, you can see the cumulative tick is starting to get a little bit more bearish on the NYSE. Coming back up to that spike low here. A little bit of gas here. The VIX is also up about 4% today, up above 34. That's kind of impressive, to be honest. If we take a look at the VIX here, so a lot of times when you have an elevated VIX like this, there goes that D low is searching a little bit lower for price here. So it came right back up to the spike, it looked like, and then sold off. But yeah, so with the VIX, a lot of times when we get this elevated VIX, it's hard to get higher once you're already elevated, right? Sometimes you could see this came down and then popped up. Well, these are pretty much all up, and then the VIX is continuing up, and we're approaching highs on the VIX that we haven't been. So the next high on the VIX here, this is back in March 08 or March 8th, February, and then that January 21st high spike on the VIX about a week before the all-time high. And VIX just is a measure of how many people are buying puts in the market. So you just assume people are getting fairly bearish on the market if they're buying a lot of puts. They need to hold this thing below 4110. They're giving a lot of effort really to hold below 4116 to 4110, and that's where all that volume came in this morning. We look, it was like here. Yeah, it's like 4110 to maybe like 4117.50 or something like that. Most of the volume coming in here. And so what I imagine is every time it gets below that Friday's low, you have people selling it. It gets below, people sell it. It gets below, people sell it. And someone's been down here just buying it, and then there hasn't been much selling lower. Not yet, at least.
Hey, Brad, when people are buying puts, does that mean the VIX is going up or down?
Up.
Okay. So when people are betting on the market going down, the VIX is going up.
Right. It's a negative correlation. Yeah. Yeah. So typically, if the VIX is going up, it doesn't necessarily mean that the market's going to go down. It just means that there's a lot that goes into it because of like gamma and fucking all this shit, especially now with SPX or futures options pretty much daily. But basically, imagine if you bought a bunch of puts, right? For whatever price, the price doesn't really matter, and then the market starts to go up. Well, you're gonna have to buy futures to hedge against these puts. So if big money was buying puts and the market starts to go up, well, now they have to buy futures to hedge against this as the market's going up, and that can cause the market to go up even more and cause a short covering rally. And that's kind of like the sticky situation with the daily puts that we have now, or daily options that we have now on the futures, because that can happen more often and cause more sustained volatility. And basically, that's all that brings from it. From an elevated VIX, typically it just means that there's higher volatility, right? So let's say, if the market was heading to the upside, but the VIX was relatively neutral, well, you're not most likely going to get a big gamma squeeze of people having to cover for puts or to hedge against puts buying the futures. Whereas, in sometimes when the VIX is elevated, you've got a lot of people buying puts. So if the market doesn't go down, they're going to have to hedge or cover, and that causes, some of those big rips, kind of like we saw. Was it Tuesday last week? I think, and Tuesday was the first day that those options were available, so it kind of made sense that they got that move to the upside. So E period mechanical here to that D low. It does look like puts are trading at the bid today. So it looks like people are selling puts to me on the futures. Kind of looks like people are buying calls. There's a lot more puts, like almost 100,000 more puts traded today than calls. So pretty lopsided there. Yeah, the put call ratio is like, it's almost 3-1 actually. 2.9. So we're still getting selling here. The weighted sectors are starting to catch up here now. Remember, you want to see them hold this below this 4110. You're getting some volume down here for sure. Go back above that 10 here. Watch the, what do we say, the 1750, 18 level, where the low volume's at. Oh, Euro closes right now. That's why this shit's going crazy. So careful here. If Europe was all short, which they probably were, especially from Friday, this could cause a little rip to the upside. Just be careful, don't get caught. Back up inside yesterday's range. There's short covering right there. Buyers try it at the 20, trying to lift the offer. Struggling. Sellers coming back in here mechanically at the spike. There they go back below that 17. All right, so let's watch it as it comes back down to the 10, and if they can hold it below the 10, we could get some more downside and look to test that A low. But if not, and they keep struggling to get the price lower, what we could be seeing here, like I said, is this possibly could be buyers showing up buying this low as a temporary spot. So it's just kind of flirting back and forth below with this spike. Oil's starting to get a little bit of a bounce here. Oil's down about 1%. Still over 100 though. It's at 103.56. XLP has looking pretty ugly. All right. Yeah, I did. So you're getting a little bit of a bounce here. Hold on. Back to that 20, and this is where buyers were at last time. It's 22.50, or well, they were 20 and then 22.50. They're trying to lift the offer again. And you can see if we zoom this in, the opens at 27, the settles at 27.50. So it's hard to see it when we're kind of zoomed out, but just so you know, that 27, that's the open right there. That seems like the target for them right here. They're it looks like they're just trying to just buy until they get to that settle. So careful. Oh, is there a way to find efficient TPO size or tick size? I found out GoCharting makes it too big on higher resolution monitors, resulting like 4 blocks on some coins. Or rather, does it affect market profile efficiency if the tick is too big or too small? It would, yeah, definitely. I think, depending upon the tick size, right? It depends on the volatility. I think if you want to have good entries, depends on the volatility of whatever you're trading, the tick size, right? So you can maybe trade Bitcoin on 10 ticks today and maybe 20 ticks tomorrow, depending upon how it's trading. Um, I think that you have everything that you need right here on TradingView with Druther's TPO. Um, you pretty much get everything that you need to trade crypto, and this is pretty much when I'm trading crypto, what I'm looking at. I'm looking at. I mean, I wish I could get this on Bybit. It would make my fucking life about 1,000 times easier. I have to draw everything twice, and it's a pain in my ass. Um, but yeah, that's kind of stupid that GoCharting does that. I don't know why a higher resolution monitor would make it bigger. It seems like they should be able to figure that out. Um, Sierra Charts has, pretty much all the cryptos, the crypto futures that you can definitely trade if you're interested in something like that. So ELO's coming back down towards these lows, back below that 10, and then kind of bounces back up. Remember, this 10 is the level I said we want to keep staying below so we can keep getting some downside. I don't want to break your concentration. What is the boot camp and what is the cost? I don't know when the next boot camp will be, so I don't want to give a specific date. If we do it live, we probably will end up charging because it's going to take a lot of time. But the recorded one hopefully will be coming out before I move if I can finish it. It's just a lot of time that it takes, you know what I mean? And so I have to like get pieces done here when I have free time, and with it being the summertime and stuff, my kids are always wanting to do stuff, and I'm being honest, that my kids come before everybody else, so but I do plan on doing a live boot camp. I think it will be fun. I think it'll be fun to get everybody in there and maybe make it like a month long and start from the very basics. We can watch the market every day and then also start with the basics. Um, I would like, I think it would be super beneficial to run a futures course, but only teach it on the weekends. That way there's no distractions, because um, I think a lot of times, unless people make a pledge really to not trade during the class, and I mean, that would be a total honor system thing. I'm not sharing, but I just think it's very difficult to absorb information when you're also trading at the same time, so um yeah, the old lessons are free on the Discord. They're in there. Free. Yeah. Alex. Oh, what's that for? So back at this 10 level, this level just seems like a battleground. They're just kind of back and forth um at this level over and over. There we go. Let's see how if they can get any continuation here. Tempo's starting to pick up a little bit. The volume just seems crappy. Sellers still look like they're trying to move down, but it doesn't. It seems like buying is weak and the market is going up easily here. Weird. Like buying doesn't look strong at all, but they're like letting the market come up so they can smack it back down. Basically, it just looks like they're trying to trap these buyers, like, you know, make them give the feel like, oh yeah, yeah. The thing about this is when they do this, and then eventually, when you're at a low, we need initiated selling down here. And so when they're doing this little trap, and there it goes, you see stuff like that. The market kind of beat me to the statement. Is when the initiated selling doesn't show up, and they try to move again, they get caught with that right hook, and then that short covering comes on. So then boom, we're back up to the 15, just like that. So it's a it's a very interesting auction today, and they're really trying to get as many people trapped as they possibly can. I want to share this with you guys as well. I'd probably start including it in the Sunday recap. It's something I've shown before, the COT reports. Um, so if we look at this COT report, right, you can see that dealers cut some of their long position, added to their short position. So they cut everything. They cut from their long position and doubled it to their short position. Same thing here from institutional money. Hedge funds are about 50-50 long and short. They've got no fucking idea what's going to happen. Typical, always, right? If we scroll down here, and we can get rid of like non-reportables, leverage money, other reportables, and we just look at dealers and asset managers, well, you can see these dealers or asset managers, excuse me, back a little bit, are the least long. They're not short, but they're the least long that they've been since June 29th, 2020. Okay. And then you see dealers, they're not long like they got in that same period, but they are, kind of inching closer to where asset managers are going. And if we scroll back in history and just look at the relation between asset managers and dealers, and this is open interest, right? Open positions going into the close on Tuesday. That's what this represents. You can see as asset managers get long, dealers get short, right? Like I said, dealers are the sell side of the market. They're taking on, the opposite trade that you're taking on. And so if asset managers are getting long, then they're getting short because they're taking it on. And so what happens is normally when it comes back together, you see things in the market, right? We can kind of see, and if we zoom this in a little, so if we go, we can look when all this price is. Okay, so you can see here, and this is a daily chart up above. Market's back below that spike. JP. Back above the spike all day. And so when it comes together here, you can see the market takes this kind of big drop, and then that's where they switch back. So it drops down, asset managers get long, dealers have to get short, right? Because they're buying from the asset managers, the market rallies. So typically after these little crosses, you get a fairly large move. Same thing here. Not as large. Well, I mean, it's a different. As the moves get higher and higher, the percentage is still the same. It just doesn't look as dramatic on the chart, right? They cross again, you get this big move down, and then after they start to rally. You can see just the correlation between these charts as we're going forward. Next time they get close, oops. So the next time they get close, March 2020, and then June 2020, and then market starts to rally. And you can see, they've pretty much been getting long. Now they're getting closer and closer. So when you think about it, and this is a free report that you can look on tradingstir.com and then just go to this website. When you're thinking about these COT reports, you're really not focused on any of this because it doesn't really matter what leverage funds are doing. That just tells you how badly they can get punished if the market goes dramatically in one way. And then you can see, I mean, 35 plus 35, I mean, they pretty much cut what they had from their long and doubled it on their short. Same thing here. They're still running a little bit of a spread, but for the most part, they haven't really flipped to bearish, as you can see, right? Leveraged money, asset managers and institutional, right? Short positions are probably always going to be, or dealers are probably always going to have a higher short position because leverage funds or other reportables are pretty much always fucking short for the most part. I mean, you can see other reportables. This is people that trade at home. They're pretty much just always shorting the market. They've been short the market. They've just been getting punished forever. Except this year, it's been actually doing okay. Let me check the comments real quick. Went on a little tangent there. Need a salesperson who would be willing to live here or here in Florida. I mean, what are we selling here, man, Martin? I mean, I can sell anything. Professional. I can do anything. That's just the kind of mind I have. Good at stuff. Who do we consider to be major asset managers? So, major asset managers are typically, like pension funds, endowments, insurance companies, some mutual funds, like portfolio investment managers for like, you know, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to be honest, because there's so many there's so many banks and stuff now because of how the system is set up, and in my opinion, it's fucking wrong. But what can you do? Um, but there is a bunch of dealers that are banks, but they're also asset managing institutional money, like JP Morgan, right? Guaranteed JP Morgan's dealing out a bunch of shit. So they probably, they have market makers dealing futures, and they have market maker, and then they have asset managers and fund managers that are buying. So uh it's just it's a really tough category for sure. BlackRock's one of them, yeah. It's a tough category where some of these people are, and I think there's a little bit of both, but either or we get to kind of see it from that side because that's how they have to register. So kind of who is it is not really that important until you start to see something like that guy from China, what's his name, he's back in the news because he's about to go to jail for frauding, whatever that shit was. His fund blew up. He lost like a couple $1 billion in a day or something. um Something like that. But it's a gray spot for sure. Your trying was a former broker. I mean, if you can do it, if I could sell things, virtually, because I can't move to Florida, even for the money, I just don't need it. Bill Wang, that's him. Happy, yeah, thank you, Bill Wang. So we're seeing Staples looks like they're breaking out up to the low side. XLK is getting a little bit of a bounce, the technology sector here. The tick is still looking, fairly bearish, still printing most ticks underneath. And we can see on the flex grid, um, most of these are coming up, but you're seeing the weighted sectors start to kind of drag the market up here. Information technologies flipped back to green, communication services still green. See, the Nasdaq breath is green and the NYSE breath is red. So depending upon where the buying is at, and if we look, you've got Microsoft green, Google green, Amazon still getting smacked, Tesla, Facebook is looking good, Nvidia, but we're not having a Apple flip. So let's move over here and look at Apple real quick and see. Oh, I just do. Oh. Let's look at Apple and see if we can find a level that we can make a play off of. This is going to be the driver today. Let's do this. Just mark today's excess low. Because XLK, the technology sector, is pretty much the only thing holding up. I mean, the Nasdaq right here is green, the Dow's red, the Russell's actually green. You're getting some small cap buying today too. Netflix is up 4% today as well. Something I didn't mention because I almost don't pay attention to it. Um, late. Trying to get a little bit of a bounce here. Do this. They can come back up above the pre-market lows. So if Apple gets back above the pre-market lows, there's good odds. If it gets accepted above those pre-market lows that that's kind of the point of control so far today. If that point of control shifts up, there's good odds that Apple could be looking to test those highs. And the pre-market high is the exact high today. So it seems like a mechanical sell-off on that Apple high to me, selling right off the pre-market highs. Not saying that it's going to go up. I'm just saying that if it gets accepted here, then we can look for opportunities to the upside, right? These are always like that. Patrick Boyle made a funny video on Mr. Wang. Who's Patrick Boyle? Martin, what are you saying? You're trying was a former broker? You were a former broker, right? That's what you said? It's just ripping around today, all crazy. Bitcoin's coming down here a little bit as well. So Bitcoin's coming down to an interesting spot, similar to if we remember last weekend, except for last weekend we were above this 39. And I'm still not a buyer down here, but there might be some buying opportunity. We have this good excess, which lets us know that, you know, there was no initiated selling back inside yesterday's value. But if we take the weekend into consideration, it's coming, you know, right back into that point of control from Thursday, and it was kind of, you know, the highs came up and then came right back up. So there might be some buying opportunity here in Bitcoin, is what I'm saying. I don't really like Bitcoin until we're back above this 39,136. It's been a good level for me, and you know, I'm just not gonna stop using it now. And as long as it's working, don't fuck it up. You know? Yeah, you know what I mean? Coming back up to the open here, be careful. Back inside Friday's range, so all this volume below, and we're still not able to push down. Back below the open could probably bring us some more short covering. Target will end up being that D high. I'm watching Apple on the other screen, so that'll let you guys know if we start to do anything on level up. There. It's getting pretty close, honestly. Apple's about to come to those pre-market lows here pretty soon. Back below the spike, back above the spike, back below, back above. Just gonna play this game all day, apparently. Oh, does he? Then post the link real quick for me, Poke. Yeah, well, British humor is the funniest humor for me, honestly. If I could just watch British TV all day, I would. But yeah, I love. I've actually been searching for someone that teaches kind of like economics, but doesn't, you know, require all these prerequisites. I want to take an economics, like a high tier economics class. Like it'd be cool to take an economics class at like Harvard or somewhere where the teacher is involved in the market, but I don't want to take any of the prereqs to get into that class because I just want to take that class. So I have to thinking. Yeah, look for this open here. It kind of looks like that's the target, but sellers are sitting there right below the open on that 25 level. Here we go. F period's opening up. See if we're going to pop that one time framing. Nope. Back towards the spike. So interesting right there. The 2250 looks to be some absorption from these sellers, like trying to absorb this 22 to 24 area before the open. Doesn't look like they've got the gas though. Like the buyers are gonna get this one. Yeah, buying all over the board here. There we go. Target is going to be the last if they're able to hold it above the settle. Big sellers coming in on the settle though. So, oh, you've got a master's in econ? Oh shit. Damn. Start dropping knowledge on us. Big push back down. So really just kind of a let loose over the settle. They weren't able to hold it. Push it back down. Back below the spike. Classic. And this is why we have spike rules, right? We don't, I mean, there's opportunities to get long in the spike, but we've got to, those are the opportunities that we need to be more careful with as we're still down. The day honestly though, today looks balanced, right? So far today looks like a nice balanced profile for the most part. You've got excess on the high that died off in some single prints to the upside, and then you have excess to the low off that initial auction and a period down. That's kind of what has me kind of convinced that there's opportunities from longs a little bit lower, and then if you see some initiated buying higher, there could be a little bit of short covering, but really you really can't be convinced until we get back above this Thursday low where that impulse was at. See all this volume come in. I think above that, there's opportunity to trade back into this upper balance. But until the market proves that it's going to do that or wants to do that, you really can't expect it to do anything but kind of chop around here. Apple didn't make it up to its pre-market highs and selling off now. It doesn't help for shit when you're trading. I just like to know how stuff works, and so I've just been kind of getting um interested lately in like the world market, and so I'm really just kind of looking to see how a lot of these things like correlate with each other and affect each other. I was able to identify a corn play pretty early and did really well on it, and so um my my next thinking honestly is materials. Oh, they're going for that low. So F period takes the E high and it's looking to take that E low. Let's see. 20 ticks or 20 contracts trade on that low. Um yeah, so my thinking is kind of that maybe steel might be the next opportunity, and reason being is if these global conflicts don't end, um I know that we stopped producing as many tanks as we used to. There was a big cutback when Biden became president. And so that means less steel is being needed because we're not making as many tanks. And so if we do start to ramp up production, right, to make tanks to sell them or to just have them in inventory in case of world war, the cost of steel or the demand for steel would probably increase worldwide. And I think that might be an opportunity there. So, what do you think? Way more than me about economics. You haven't met an economist that makes money in trading, just teaching. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's like most of the people that post like daily videos, except Josh at the trading fraternity. He actually stacks cash. So when we're looking at this kind of weak low, right? we understand that there is a lot better odds that we break this week low than hold the week low towards the end of the day, right? It's not that it's 100%, but because the trend is down for the day, it just improves the odds that the week low that is to the low can break. We did just get an 1,000 tick though. It looks like a little bit of exhaustion from sellers down there. I forget. Patrick Boyle. Nice. I'll check out his video. It would be cool to get his opinion on the Rupal too. The big news about Bitcoin this weekend, like I said, is because the I don't know how to spell the futures publicistics. So if we look at these this is the Russian ruble. We'll look at on the daily chart. You can see this, massive destruction of the ruble, and it was pretty much not worth shit the whole time. Got crushed and is now back at this is from the invasion, and it's now basically back at those same levels. And this is why a lot of people think, or a lot of people are saying that Bitcoin's going to get smacked, is because everyone that started taking their money out of the ruble didn't have anywhere to put it, so they started buying Bitcoin, and that's what kind of has been holding Bitcoin up. Even Bitcoin got a little bit of a pump during this time, and now that the ruple's going back, they're saying Bitcoin is going to head down. I don't know how much validity that statement has, but it's definitely something worth paying attention to, in my opinion, if you're going to be a trader of Bitcoin. If a lot of people are thinking it and a lot of people are saying it, you can possibly set up a nice trade with human psychology in mind. Back below that 10 level now, where this 10 level was a big battle area earlier, and starting to get some volume lower here. And I changed the volume also to say 14.7K instead of the actual. So if you like that or don't like that, too fucking bad. You know what I mean? No, I'm just kidding. Volume's coming in down here, but it's just not coming in at the low. You know what I mean? Like as soon as price gets below that 5, it's almost like sellers just are nowhere to be found. Now we're back up to the 10 again. Let's take a peek at the volume. Yeah, volume. I mean, 9% more volume now than Friday during this period. So if we look at F period on Friday, you can see F period was that initial break, caused some. Well, it's the second break actually that caused some single prints. But we're about 10% more volume than that. We haven't broke yet, so, or at all. Yeah. Also, if you're tracking the sectors, individually, make sure that you update the weights in the weighted sectors for the S&P, right? The 11 sectors, the month ended. I mean, you could update them every day if you really wanted to, if you're all about it. But um, they changed, right, because the weekend is over, so, or the month is over. I mean, so definitely update them. Seeing a little bit of buying here in Apple. Energy's flipped green here, but everything still looks kind of weak, to be honest. It's just we're just not getting any continuation. A little chop fest today. Selling starting to pick up a little bit here in the weighted sectors, but still, the Nasdaq is still green here. Nasdaq's still up about 0.2%. ES is down 0.4%. So, there's a divergence here, and this is kind of what I was mentioning earlier. If we look over here and you look at the Nasdaq, the Nasdaq broke the low on Friday before had broken that previous low and is now kind of coming back up to those lows. And if it gets accepted inside this lower balance, right, kind of 4-day lower balance here, and really like 5-day lower balance here, it there's good odds that the Nasdaq could rally. And if the Nasdaq rallies, it could really bring the market up with our big tech names being beat up so bad, right? Especially if we look year to date. Apple's down 14%, Microsoft 16%, Google 20, JP Morgan 26, Tesla. It just doesn't look great. Netflix is down 61% year to date. So this is our second time back down here. Let's see if the market wants to take that low this time. Back below the 10 again. Not second time today, but second time just now. Getting a lot of volume down here, but just no follow through. Like I said, it seems to get to that 5 and then kind of die. Starting to see a little bit of selling here in the board sectors. XLV is breaking down, so healthcare looks to be breaking the lows. XLY is still holding okay, but doesn't look great. Everything seems to be flipping red here, except for consumer discretionary and technology. Have to treat this profile as balanced so far until we get any continuation. So if we're looking for longs, we've got to look for longs down here towards the low, and I'm not really recommending that. I'm recommending, maybe looking towards the highs to see some opportunities to get short if the market starts to run out of steam. Kind of like that FI was a decent spot. I didn't take advantage of it, but it was a decent spot. Coming back up towards that low. All right, back below the 10. Let's see if they can get follow through. Then you get some volume below the 5. Nothing there. Bounces back up. Volume just continuing here. Continuing to build. Bond's getting beat up a little bit here now too. Oh, not now, but ES is only down about 0.2 and the Nasdaq is up 0.3. So you're starting to see the ES try to catch up with the Nasdaq. The Dow's down 0.2 as well. The Russell's starting to get some steam, almost up 0.5%. There goes the Nasdaq's almost up 0.5% now, 0.48. Starting to get a little bit of buying going on in here. The tick's trying to break up here. A lot of buying coming into the market. A lot of buying coming into the market here. Be careful. Look at, watch this volume keep increasing here, quick too. There goes Apple, right? Breaking into those pre-market highs. So like I said, if we get buying here and Apple's getting into those pre-market highs, this is where we could get this nice takeoff from. Buyers again trying to lift the offer there at the 30 and they're struggling. That's just kind of, this just looks kind of like selling off half back right here. Front running half back. I think this selling is weak right here. Apple's boosting hard right now. A lot of buying. There it goes. Let's see if they've got the stones to take that D high here. Buying still coming in. This is just strong buying right here in the weighted sectors too. So, all eyes on the weighted sectors right here. And if they keep getting buying inside of them, then this market can keep going big time. Especially if it starts to flip some of these other sectors. And you're seeing consumer discretionaries flipped green, communication services, industrials, energy, and information technology. So now we've got 5 out of 11 sectors flipped green when we basically only had about 3 all morning. And you're seeing where the sellers are lurking at, right? That 30, that 41.30, which is fairly close to the half back. Well, I mean, that F period is basically right off the half back, is what we figured. You see Bitcoin came right down kind of like where we were looking at, that point of control from the weekend, almost to the tick, it looks like, and then it's kind of getting a boost back in. So let's watch this VPOC here on Bitcoin, which is to the upside. We've got our TPOC lower, but our VPOC is up on the high, probably act as a little bit of resistance as we've seen selling, pretty much off of this 39,000 level for the most part. Coming back to that 30 level, this is a spot where we saw sellers get short. Look like mechanical sellers, right? Mechanical sellers selling off the halfback, front running the halfback, and right now we're just kind of monitoring for this continuation. Acceptance above the settle or above the open, which is fairly close. The settle from Friday and the open today were 2 ticks apart. Acceptance above this could take us back up to that Globex point of control, which was at 47.50, and that's kind of where we saw the reaction of selling earlier, so we could look for more opportunities for sellers up there, just being careful because that is towards the spike and puts us back inside Friday's value area, and acceptance in Friday's value area could cause some extensive short covering, and you definitely don't want to be part of that unless you are on the right side, naturally. If you are just tuning in for the stream for the first time, let us know. I'll send you a Discord link and you can get more information about what we're talking about. If this chart makes you confused and you're kind of used to looking at candlesticks, nothing wrong with that. Everyone is kind of adverse to the matrix the first time they see it. And then, then they start to believe and jump from buildings to buildings and stuff. So. And then if you are in the other Discord, that white Discord, I'm gonna end up deleting it. It is basically just like a skeleton factory in there. And I just don't like having Discords. I've moved most of the stuff that's important to the new Discord, and I consolidated the new Discord. That's why it's a lot easier to manage. I've just combined a lot of things just to make it easier for everybody, because the other Discord was kind of like that. It just had a million channels and it was like too hard to navigate. So just making things easier as I get ready for the move.
Nice.
You're going to the grocery store after?
That's usually
Yeah. Take a picture of the board.
I have it in my back.
Oh, Just really trying to carve out this spike low here. You can see the market's just been back and forth over it all day pretty much, trying to figure out what it wants to do. So now we've got a nice little range forming right below this 10. We've seen selling shut off, and really, you know, up near this 30, we saw buying get absorbed. So you're starting to get a little bit tighter of a range. And like I said, when this kind of stuff happens, we start to get these tighter ranges. This range is 30. We're coming off the low and really coming up to this 10 here. You know, as this range starts to get tighter and tighter, eventually, you know, someone's going to capitulate, and that's when we'll get our move. And that's really when the opportunity presents itself. And if you can stay patient until that time, there's going to be a lot of opportunity from that point, I imagine. So once again, patience will get you paid. Yeah, see this to me, this kind of just looks like a liquidation. Like it just looks like the market's just kind of, you know, selling all of their excess inventory, and someone's just kind of been scooping it up. And we're kind of getting like a little bit of acceptance inside this range. It's just weird to me that volume is so heavy lower, and we haven't really had any continuation yet, right? And we've got some heavy competition here. It looks like buying and it looks like selling, right? To me, it's just interesting to note, especially with how emotional the market was on Friday as well, right? We came down on, you know, nothing. I mean, elevated volume compared to the rest of the week, but nothing really insane until the last hour of the day. If you take out the last hour of the day, the volume is lower than the previous day. So it's just really that break that caused a um, bunch of increase in participation. Let's see if these buyers want to get back up there and challenge that 4130 one more time. G periods open. Starting to see a pullback here in tech. But consumer discretionary looks good. Industrials doesn't look bad. Consumer staples getting beat up pretty bad. Financials okay. Healthcare looks to be, trying to recover the low. Apple kind of put in a weak high on that upside. Really similar to this like F and D high as well. EU is talking about a breach of sanctions right now because people are converting their dollars to pay in rubles because Russia wants their dollar to go back up to get some strength back. I mean, people need energy, and it gets to that point where, what are you going to do? Sacrifice your morals for survival, right? Everyone has a a point where survival is going to become more important than morals. That's just that's just biology, human biology. Like they say, it's impossible to drown yourself in water that's not as deep as you, um unless you've got unless you're like drugged or you've got like a mental instability, but it's just impossible to push your face in the sink and drown in there because of your your instinct to survive. Your body would naturally try to pull itself out of that water. The market's struggling there. It looks like some, looks like some sellers might be moving down here to absorb a little bit lower. Interesting. Buyers step back in on the 2250. Watch this 25, see if sellers show back up. Nope. 30. Buyers still active here. I don't really like this 30 level, to be honest, to try to get short from. So Tommy, back down to that 25. Push it back. This is where buyers were at last time. Just fades right through them. I just don't like that F high, to be honest with you guys. I just don't think it's this looks weird. Back below the Friday's low here. Ooh, they're talking about planting corn on CNBC. A little bit fucking late. Talking about wheat now. Selling just looks like it's like, it's like it's trying to come in, but you can't really tell if it's like slow and steady or if it's just getting absorbed. It's just kind of pathetic. Watch that 2250. If this thing gets back up there above that, probably see some sellers give up. 2250 to 25 area seem to be the kind of the area that they move down to sell it this time. There's some follow through. Watch below the 10. The 10, that 15 to 10 level has been this kind of back and forth here. You can see they're kind of filling in this volume lower here now, right? We've got some backfilling here. We kind of had this kind of lower chunk of volume, and slowly we're starting to get volume coming down. We see the VPOC right here at the 20 level, which has been a big level for us. And then you're seeing volume come in lower and lower. If price starts to get below that, you could start to see some slipping, right? If you imagine for a second that you probably have buyers and sellers both competing for price. Well, if we get more initiated selling coming in and price gets below this volume, you're going to be looking at a similar situation as we had Friday, where you had these rotations that brought in a lot of volume, and then once price got below them, they really started to break, and price had continuation, and then kind of inversely to the upside as well. The interesting thing here is that just how it's coming in kind of tapered until it gets to the middle. If I can get back down to this 10 here. Or lows at, or that we close at 4 here. Seller's getting close to that negative 1,000 tick here. See if they can get this continuation below the 10. Ooh, starting to see some selling down here. See if we can get some continuation. They're trying to get back below that 10 and stay below that 10. That's their goal here. Price starts to stay below the 10, could bring some more fear into the market and push this market a bit lower. Apple's coming down a little bit here too, but not really near its low yet. A lot of these stocks, as I'm kind of flipping through them, are making lower highs and higher lows, which basically just kind of supports that theory of, the market's just getting tighter and tighter. Sellers are moving down, buyers are moving up, and eventually the market's going to decide which way it's going to go. So what I'm looking for really is something like this, right? I'd like to see the market break out, hold the breakout, get short on the back test, and trade lower, back below that 4,100. To the upside, I'd really like to see the market, actually get a little bit higher than this, to be honest with you. But I'd like to see that breakout to the upside above that spike, and then fill in this weak volume that's up here for possible continuation later in the day. And until then, really, I'm just kind of fading edges, buying a little bit at the low, selling some at the highs, and just taking them for a couple ticks here, a couple ticks there. Nothing crazy today, to be honest. Starting to get some volume coming in. Sectors are still looking pretty weak. XLK starting to pull back here a little bit. The tick is breaking that 1,000 tick, but we're not breaking the low yet. So this is kind of, sometimes signals that the market may be a little bit exhausted and might not be able to move much lower from here. Seeing a little bit of a rebound there. Look for the, like the 16 to 20 level maybe. Or 10 to 15, I mean. 20. Yeah, only information technology, energy, and consumer discretionary are still green now. Everything else is flipped back to red. We're starting to get a pickup of selling in weighted sectors here too. Market's still getting sold off a lot harder than the rest of the weighted sectors, but you're starting to see a pickup in selling. And normally when you see a pickup in selling, if we're getting all these down ticks, it's interesting why we're not breaking the low. If these sellers can pour on down here and take us below. I'm going to try a long from right here, and I'm going to be looking for that 18. My stop's going to go right below that 4. Try and get filled. Trying to get long on the 8. I was looking for that 18 on a pop back up, but get filled. So there's some selling right there. Let's see if they can push it. We're just hanging out towards the lows here. Volume's coming in. All right, so right here, if they don't pop that 10, like I want to see some buying right above that 10. I'll just cut this long trade for quick point. I'm buying pop in right here. Let's see. Yeah. So now it looks like sellers are trying to move down here below this 10, and they might try to go for the low now. Can't get any follow through. This is the 4th time today that I bought the 8. You're seeing just heavy selling in the market right now, but the weighted sectors really aren't catching up. I mean, they're trying to. You're starting to see Apple come down a little bit here, breaking its lows. See if they got this. 5 contracts straight on that low tick there. Bitcoin coming back down to that point of control again. Or the well, the point of control from 2 days ago, I mean, here on the 30th. Which seemed to be a resistance and has kind of been acting a little bit as support so far. So important to note. Ooh, the cumulative tick is getting just smacked down hard. There's a lot of selling coming in here. I don't know. These sellers basically just have to break this. If they don't break this, then this thing might just fucking rocket up. Because they're trying their hearts out here. There's good odds that we can flush this 4 level right now. And it'll just be to see if initiated sellers show up down here and push this thing lower at that 4100. Remember, at psychological level 2, 4100, you could see responsive buyers just buying that 4100 as well. So there goes that low, about 2 ticks below it. Actually, like 1 tick below it. Still seeing sellers move down. There it goes. So they've got to get this low here. If they don't get this low, I think that they might be in for some trouble. But it looks like they are going to get it. There's some selling coming in here. Big selling on that 4100, right? Buyers trying to step up and absorb. We already kind of expected that. I mean, they're just selling everywhere. Like, I mean, look at all the volume coming in. The sellers really are trying to prove a point, and if they can't break the low, it's gonna, it's gonna make them look fairly weak. So they need to get this price back below 4100. If not, probably see a little bit short cover and rally. Then we'll use the 5 and the 10 area as a possible pullback area, or low as well. Profile still balancing here. You kind of have this half pipe forming down here below from that from this G period to here, right? We kind of talk. I mean, this thing kind of keeps going like that, but we've talked about how volume starts to form like that, and you kind of see buyers and sellers, and what you're looking for, depending upon who you're looking for to win, is you're looking for this to start looking more like that. right? Or same thing here. You're looking for this to start looking more like that and to take the ramp out of it. Start, and that will just show that buyers are moving up slowly as the price gets higher and higher. Or it's the inverse. The price is, they'll be looking for it lower or moving down lower to sell it as price gets lower and lower. There's a lot of talk as well. Oh, here comes some more selling. There's a lot of talk as well with oil, or the commodities in general, really. If they're going to start to break out to the upside, that's going to be causing a lot of pressure on stocks as well. And so the market will typically push down farther after that. Apple's almost down to its low. Apple's down about 1.6. Microsoft's up 1%. Oh, it looks like it's going. Trying to pick up some steam here. The fear is hitting in. And now the target here, if we if we continue on this path, we look at the futures chart, daily. You can see we're below that 2-month balance. And remember, just because we break it on a daily doesn't necessarily mean that we're just going to stay below it and you can just sell it the whole time. But the next level down, really, we've got this 40.50, this low here, and then that gap down at 40.37. NASDAQ is red right now too, down 0.3. ES down 0.7. The Russell's even negative, down 0.5%. So the Russell went from being up 1% to being down 1%. Interesting. Yo, what's up, Sean? Saw this whole move before it happened. It went exactly as I imagined, but I've never seen it move with such force in both directions all the way down Chop City. Yeah, there's a lot of room to the downside. The issue kind of being is, we got some single prints here. Let's see if it fills them up. A couple single prints, maybe just one, or maybe none actually. That H high is like almost exactly at the A low. The issue being is the fear when the market gets down here, and that's why you have some of these big up moves, because you've got a lot of weak money that gets short on these days, and any rally just spooks them out and they just start covering everything. And so it's really really a matter of being careful with any long trades, kind of like we've been talking about, just because they could end quick. And then the same thing with shorts. When you're getting short at the low, you've got to be extremely careful, because these rallies have been kind of often and violent. Um, and some of the bigger days in stock market history have been some of the bigger up days in stock market history have been during quotation bear markets because of that same idea, right? Fear. And it's interesting too that like they they say sell in May and go away, um but and typically May is like one of the worst performing months of the stock market, but April was a pretty bad fucking month. So normally April's a strong month. Google just flipped red. Microsoft's coming down. Facebook's still green. uh Netflix is still green. Basically, energy and consumer staples are the only thing that are still green. Everything else is looking pretty bad. Technology just got a big smackdown, and that's kind of what's causing this downside right here. I didn't tell it. Red just everywhere on the board here. Apple's getting pretty close to those lows of the day. Very close. The tick is starting to get really red here as well. Pretty much just like almost trading below 1,000 constantly here. So you're seeing like pretty significant amount of selling, and typically when you see the tick. So this is the confusing thing about the tick. Sometimes you get exhaustion prints below the 1,000. Seeing a little bit of buying here, but price isn't really advancing that much. But typically, when you see this below 1,000 on a balanced day, we get exhaustion, and we've seen it a couple times today so far until this breakout during G period. Right, we've got a couple thousand ticks, negative or positive, and kind of been the upper and lower limits, and now we're seeing it break below 1,000, but we're breaking a low at the same time, and that is more of a go with situation. But you're seeing a lot of buying coming back in, almost back to break even. But you haven't seen the advance that you've seen in some of the other stocks before the breakdown. Um, I today I've been being super tight. So like as soon as the trade goes into profit, I'm pretty much been moving my stop to break even. I've taken a lot of break even trades today. Yeah, just because of how volatile it is, I don't want to be in a winning trade and then all of a sudden just fucking get smacked down. So I've been really quick to move my take profit to break even today. Even on the short trades I've been in too, I've flattened a couple of them before they needed to get flattened. Honestly, I shorted right here. I shorted what is this? The 97 and 97 quarter on the when we popped back up and retested it, it got short, and and then I cut it at 93. Got kind of spooked out. Apple breaks a low. Back to this 95 level, that seemed like a level where we got a little bit of capitulation from buyers and they started to liquidate. See if they hold it back down and sellers try to reoffer here. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what Powell says next week. Yeah, I have a keyboard shortcut. Yeah. Yeah, it's recovered. Back above the 4100 here. And then as we come back up, remember our levels from above that were, kind of battled over. We had that 10, the 15, what was another one? The 2250 and the 30, I think, were the four levels I've written down. So those levels were, kind of battle tested levels or areas of interest. So we'll see if the market goes back up, if you get a reoffer and these sellers step back in to sell this thing lower, which is kind of what it looks like here, moving down to 4100. Need to keep maintaining it below. Yeah, this is just high volatility. I've seen this a good amount of times. This is what happens when the VIX is, over 30. The VIX is at 34 right now, up about 3.5% for the day, and basically that's pricing in an opportunity to move, 2%. That's a pretty significant amount, and everyone knows that. And it's like, there's just a lot of fear in the market, and with a lot of people buying puts because they're, trying to probably hedge against their long positions. When those don't work out, or maybe they do, they overwhelm, you see bigger moves in the market. Like sellers are sitting up on the 10 still. It tends to chop. So this is kind of what I was like trying to allude to earlier is what happens when we get stuff like this, when we've got this high volatility and the market really doesn't know what's going on, you start to see, and this is back when A period was here, you start to see this kind of price uh, or value really get tight. And so eventually you'll break. And right now we're kind of back testing it. And what we're watching for is on this auction, if sellers are going to come in and try to move price down here, or try to re-offer price, right? So they sold, let's say, let's say we got a bunch of selling up here. We were getting a bunch of buying up here or down here. Price came in. Eventually it got to that breaking point, liquidated down. So all the inventory got sold off. Not a lot of sellers showing up very low at the bottom, even though there is a pretty high increase of volume right now. So, they really just haven't had the opportunity, most likely. H period comes back up and kind of, gets reoffered so far. And now they're trying to hold price below this mechanical or psychological level of 4,100. Um, what typically happens is if we're testing this low and not able to keep getting the offer and keep trending down, right? FGH for one time framing down here out of value. So in an imbalance, and we took the initial auctions low to start this imbalance, that gives us a little bit more leaning to the downside, right? But if we're not able to get any continuation, then that's going to show us or kind of tell us that we're not getting this volume, and this volume was really just excess inventory getting blown off, and price will continue above, right? And the first step in that is for buyers to start buying here above this 4,100 or in this 4,100 level. Um, Interesting thing, we saw this volume, we're starting to get a little bit more volume here, but we have kind of this volume slowly moving lower and lower and lower. uh this kind of would be the next spot that we'd want to see volume build and hold price below to get continuation. But it can kind of do both. To really get to your question, it's going to chop until it really makes a decision, and then a lot of times after it makes that decision, it'll start to trend, right? So we're getting a little bit of a back test, and if buyers don't start to buy up here and fill this in and try to take price higher, then there's good odds that we get more of that downside. And even if buyers do show up here and price moves up, that's not necessarily saying, oh, sellers they're gone, right? We know that they're up here around this 30 level, so we still have to pay attention, um, up here for a reoffer. And really, like I said, I don't really I don't really trust uh I don't really trust this market until um we get back above this, at least this low here at 57. And that's at the very, very least. That's like trusting it as far as I can throw it. It's by weight, 4,000 pounds. Probably only throw that like, a couple 100 feet. Did you guys watch any of the Jimmy Buffett? The Warren Buffett? The Warren Buffett on the weekend? About how he basically said he wouldn't buy any Bitcoin, even if it was like the last Bitcoin in the world. That's basically what he said. Him and that Charlie Munger, I think his name is, basically just saying that Bitcoin's a joke and they wouldn't buy it. And typically in my, small time understanding the market, when you've got two, uh, big people like that are saying that, they probably own a fuckload of it. You know, that's typically how it goes. We'll find out that, you know, Warren Buffett bought a fuckload of Bitcoin right before he told everyone don't buy it. Probably doesn't want I mean, he probably wants it lower. Of course, think about if you're a long-term investor in something, um, and it's already, near a spot where there's good opportunity, they'll probably, do what they can to knock it a little bit lower and get a better entry point. Think about if you have that much power, people really pay attention. Even though it is surprising that
those kind of statements like rolled off people's backs. People were like, "Fuck you," and Bitcoin really didn't move down that much. You know what I mean? And that kind of makes me think, fuck, maybe he's right. Maybe it's not the way ahead. So there's a lot of. I always try to look at everything from both sides too, and then eventually get to the end of the rabbit hole, as James calls it, which is how we landed on corn a while back, and we're able to find that play really early. Even XLC is starting to look a little bit weak here. Technology's just barely hanging on. Apple kind of has a weak low or poor low, if you will. An early sign of a chop day is going to happen is an early cessation of one time framing. So, I mean, you could call it, all the way up till like, I like to go to 9 o'clock. So like the first 3 hours, or first 2.5 hours, I guess, if which would be like E period, right? If we have a break of one time framing on E period, it increases uh the possibilities or the odds for a rotational day. And I mean, really, if you look at it, today is definitely a balanced profile for the most part with value lower. So when we have a day like that, where we have a balanced day, the best trades to take today for the most part are going to be short trades, and we're going to be, sometimes like right here, we're not looking to get short at the lows, right? We're looking to get these pullbacks. So if you were looking to get short, you should have been looking to get short on that when H period popped up a little bit more around the 6. Oh, fuck yeah. Having passed inspection. Let's go. We're building a cabin up in Tahoe. This year, all the ground shit's gonna get done, and then next year will be all the logs and shit. When I say we're building, I say mainly my brother is doing all the work because it's his job. He's an outside cat. I think there's a buyer here on the 96 to me. See if they can flush him through, but it does look like there's a buyer there just kind of lurking on that 96. Still there. Yeah, the cabin, I can't wait. Done. It'll just be like a nice like vacation spot to go chill. I like Tahoe too. It's super chill for the most part. No, today on a day like today, I normally don't use tight stops. I'm normally using a little bit wider stops, but moving them a lot sooner than I normally would, right? So like normally I'm running like, you know, uh I think last week I was running like a 12 tick stop for the most of the week. Um, Sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller, but for the most part, I was starting with 12. Um, and then I was pretty patient last week, just letting my trades work out because we weren't getting as much of the whipsaw as we are today. So today is one of those days where a wide stop can definitely hurt you, but it's definitely more advantageous to have a wider stop unless you're just having terrible entries. And that can be identified on one trade, right? If you take a trade and it immediately just goes negative and stays negative the whole time, well, then that was just a shitty ass trade. And it happens to everybody. But if you have, let's say an 8 tick stop, this thing you could easily get in a trade. It goes down 8 ticks, ticks you out, and then goes up 20 ticks right away. And, when you're trying to be that precise on a day like today, it's a very difficult task to ask of anybody, I think. Even, the mighty Jim Dalton or Peter Reznicek, people that we know are good traders, even they could have some difficulty on a day like today. But they probably won't because they'll stay patient. So, you know what I mean? But I'm talking more of a read on the market than like a trade. So, and that's kind of how I base my stop too. Like if I have a strong read on the market, well then I'm going to use probably tighter stop. Especially if the market's trending, or if the market's been in a pretty significant balance the whole time, then I'll probably manage risk a little bit tighter. Whereas on a day that's kind of chaotic like this, having a tight stop really could just get you in more trouble than is necessary. So back below this 95. Let's see if we can get continuation here. Finally able to get back below, but they're just, I mean, if you just notice the tempo, every time we get low, like we do break the low, but it normally pops back up into that previous bar's range, kind of the reason we don't have any single prints. And then it has to kind of bounce around a little bit before it can get the steam to go down. That's kind of been the theme all day today. Yeah, no problem, bro. You can see that we're getting selling moving back down here from that 4100 to 4095, but yet, every time we get below there, it just keeps coming back up, right? So you're probably just getting a bit of short covering. They sell it down, they cover their shorts, they sell it down, they cover their shorts, and they're just kind of waiting for, buyers to just stop buying and price will just sink lower. That's kind of what it seems like to me. One thing, Sean, I think um that would benefit you is, well, actually, I mean, I don't know when you're taking your trades. I just see like as soon as the market opens, you've pretty much already taken like 3 trades, and I think it would benefit to do kind of what Pop does. Pop does a thing where he like takes a specific amount of time in between each trade, first 2 periods. You said you've been getting slaughtered on the on the trading view sim. So volume's increasing here, about 11% more in that last period. G and Windows, what do we got? We got about 2 minutes till the next period opens up. So we'll get a chance to see if volume's been increasing when this H low has broken the low. Doesn't look. Why does this thing keep fucking switching to Eastern time? Yeah, yeah, and I've seen that, Sean. Like, I mean, you have been like very, it's like you've been following your trade plan. It's just sometimes, you know, I think it would be more beneficial. That Apple crossing the low. Yes, it is. Apple's crossing the low. If they're gonna low here. I think it might just be beneficial every once in a while to, especially if you lose the first trade to rebalance or to take a breath real quick and then jump back in. And a lot of times too, your first trade is either long and your second trade short, or your second trade's long and your first, or you know what I mean. They're kind of opposite of each other. When in some days, if they were just in the same direction, you probably would have won all your trades. I think there was a day last week where you had 2 big wins and 1 decent loss, but that loss that you had was against the other 2 trades that you had big wins on. It knows I'm moving. See if they can get some steam down. I period opens up, no single prints, but let's see if we can get some of this continuation in the volume. All right, as of now, you just treat that H as good excess. Back to the 95. This is the spot where they offered it before. This 95 to 4100. 13% volume increase in that last period. We're about 2.7 mil total volume. Yeah, Sean. Yeah. Yeah, try. And honestly, like, I think, if I know you've got other stuff going on, but if you're able to just wait patiently for that trend to kind of present itself, you're able to set yourself up for some better trades. And your entries have been looking pretty good, to be honest with you. And one thing I will say that you probably do better than most, is stick to your stop. That's one thing my dad does really well too. He's not afraid to stick to his stop. Yeah, that's a good way to go too. And then just start focusing more now on, because you've got your good entries, you're making good levels. Start and this is where things really get tough, because you're like, all right, I want to take this trade and I'm gonna stay in this trade. It's either gonna win or it's gonna lose. But sometimes, you know, if the trade looks like it's weak right away, just cut it real quick and don't let it go down all the way to those 10 ticks. And same thing on the upside. If it gets up, because you're looking for 20 ticks most of the time on the upside, if it gets up 15 ticks and starts to get a little bit weak, don't be afraid to just cut that thing out up high instead of letting it come back down. Because I know you move your take profit up, but don't be afraid to just cut it early if it starts to look weak. If they got the gas this time to push this thing a little bit lower. There they go. What did we say that other low was? What's this low? 55.75. They're trying. 47 contracts on the low. Yeah, and that's just going to take time, Sean. Just working on, working on understanding the auction and when the auction starts to fade and when the auction is going to keep going. And that's really something that's so hard to teach. It's honestly almost impossible to teach. It's just one of those things that you're only going to get good at by watching, and that's why I always stress how important, screen time is, or just record it and watch it back in like double time or something like that, just to see the auction and get the feel of it. Uh, you know, that's why it's surprising to me when people um, teach things like that, like they, unless it's just a static thing, and you're just kind of um, using static references to trade off of, then you become one of those weaker handed traders. And in that case, you might as well just be looking to trade off every fucking halfback of every bar, right? But we're trying more to understand how the auction's going and identifying, when bigger money is getting short and when they're initiating, when they're being responsive, all of these kind of things. What's this 95 on this move up? See if sellers come back down and smack it back down. Might even move down lower here. We'll see, but If it pops back up to 95, should step back in around there. Like a little short covering here. There's some. So you've got Microsoft green, Google's green, Apple, Amazon, Tesla red, Facebook green, and Netflix is green. Oh, AMD's green today too, huh? I don't know. That 8509. Remember this level? Uncle Stacy, you're in here? Fairly green. Yeah. Bounced hard off that level too. Inside this area here on a larger time frame, this 93 to 85 is where I was looking to possibly try to get long on AMD long term, but there just hasn't been an opportunity because we haven't had any real buying in the market yet. And I'm just not one of those investors that's just going to be like, well, I'm going to hold it forever, so I'll just buy it here. It's fine. It'll come back. Not my style. Oh, you're on audio only? Yeah, it was that level that when you were in that short the one day that we were looking for it to get down to. Just I hadn't looked at the chart since then, and it had a like pretty strong reaction off of that level. So look, it breaks the low, pops back into the previous bar's range. And so this is that opportunity again that I'm talking about. This is kind of what we've been doing. We're just continuing that one time framing lower, right? I mean, still didn't break that D high, but GHI, FGHI. And so we want to look to see where sellers came in. And really it looked like this move came from that 95 level. Starting to get a lot of volume down here below though. Towards the low of this bar. So kind of what it looked like earlier this morning. We got a big chunk of volume and then all of a sudden it just kind of died out at the bottom and then the market rebounded during that C period. There you had kind of like a huge short covering rally. So just watch that 95 level as a possible reaction for sellers to reoffer. But just be careful along that area as well, because it's kind of the setup that we saw earlier when things popped. A bunch of volume coming in here, just a little bit off that low. Let's see if they can get some continuation and push that down. You're seeing to me it looks like sellers are moving down, trying to get price lower and just not getting any extra effort, and kind of a grind down all day. XLK, the technology sector, has gone red. It's only communication services and energy that are still holding on to the green. Communication services is not really holding on that well, if I'm being honest. I want the sun to come out. If they go. All right, let's look for the continuation here. This could be where we really start to just go. Market's just breaking down over 1% right now. You're going to start to see some fear come out. So let's look for that. That point was pretty much like the 87, like maybe 87.75 was the impulse. VIX is at 35, up 5% today. Pretty fucking high. Google's about to go red. Left. Bitcoin's getting smacked down here. AMD selling down. Microsoft is still looking kind of strong here. Big reaction off that low, kind of. We got about 13 minutes until the next period opens up. We could open up with some singles, could give us some good opportunity to start some fear and start this trending to the downside. Still breaking. Volume's coming in. These previous lows at 53.90. What was that? 55.75 and 51. Sellers at the 80. So on a day like today, Sean, what you can do is, especially because your plan is working out, is just you're gonna have to be looking for more, like a higher take profit, which you're also gonna have to risk more, but you're gonna have to be more willing to let the trade work out. Um, so like we talked about earlier, how we had this pullback in H period, right? So the volume, and then that H period sell down. Well, I period came all the way back up to 4,100, but never made it really above the 4,100, kind of died off. If you had gotten short in H, this big move up in I might have shooken you out, and which that's what it's designed to do. But that's gonna that's gonna be one of those things when you have that conviction of the trade and you can just feel it, you can see the tempo. You just had to you have to just kind of sit in that trade and let it work out. It's just there's such a balance to it. There's no like specific rhyme or reason or things that are gonna make it make an automated strategy work out on a day like today or something like that. Like no, there's no if this then that. It's just there's like if this then that, then if this then that, and there's so many if this then that's going on all at the same time that it becomes impossible um to kind of really decide whether you're going to be like, I'm going to stay in, just hanging in there yourself to do it. Now that it's more of a habit less than an emotion. Yep. Yeah, it has to become a habit. I mean, you're still going to have the emotion, but you're just going to have to or get comfortable with it. This thing looks like it wants to just come straight down to that gap. It's just going. The NASDAQ is actually just getting smacked right now too. A bit of buying, short covering coming in. Yeah, Microsoft dipped a little bit. Still holding green. Microsoft's kind of the outperformer today. If we look at the BTC futures too, you can kind of see Bitcoin still hasn't broken that week low on the daily chart. Has broken Friday's low, but it's still kind of inside Friday's range right now. It's low. All right, guys. It's 11 o'clock. I got to get my workout in. I'll be around the computer. I'll work out outside because it looks kind of shitty ass weather. But if you guys have any questions and stuff, definitely just hit me up on Discord and I'll definitely. Sure. Purple Swan, hey Brad, I've been learning TPO from you, but I want to get a little deeper. Oh yeah, of course, man. Let me send you the link real quick.
I'll post a link in the chat. Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, and then if you have any questions, just let me know. Yeah, hang in there. That's for sure. Appreciate it, Sean. Thank you. Good to see you too. But yeah, everyone have a wonderful day. Make sure you are managing risk and sticking to your trade plan. As far as the rest of the day goes, right? Don't try to be a hero and just figure out when you're going to be buying this low and riding it all the way back up. As of right now, we've got about 6 minutes left until the next period opens up, and it probably pretty decent odds that we open up on single prints, which is finally going to show the capitulation of those buyers. And where is the next spot that you probably see some buyers at? We'll probably down in that gap that we were talking about earlier, where these lines get moved. We could see that trend off the low is finally broken, but there's a gap down here. And so, normally gaps act as excess, and we've seen that gap act as excess so far. So on a retest of that gap, we'll see if buyers show up. But right now, it doesn't really look like buyers are anywhere to be found. More or less just, a bit more of what happened on Friday. Thanks, Trin. You too. Thank you, Pop. Everyone have a wonderful day, and I will catch you guys later.